What is up, everyone? My name is Joseph, and welcome back to another IRL review, where I take games and give them a rating of I really dislike to I really like. I use this rating system because it's a little less ambiguous than just a normal 1 to 5 scaling system, and I feel like it's a little bit more relatable and gets my point across quickly. But anyway, enough of an introduction, let's get into why I like Battlerite. If you've ever gone through the mentally draining and soul-crushing experience that is being addicted to League of Legends, you probably know that finding a team-based competitive game that is actually fun is a little bit difficult. I know there's other games in that genre that may fit your needs, such as CSGO or Overwatch, but unlike me in the bedroom, money doesn't always come quickly to everyone. And when you limit your searches down to free, it becomes very difficult to find a full-fledged PvP multiplayer team-based games that offers hours and hours of gameplay that you can really sink time into. Now, I'm not just going to sit here and talk bad about League of Legends, but I feel like it's a good game to use as a baseline comparison because it is so popular and has a lot of similarities with Battlerite. But before I get too in-depth into my opinions, let's go over what Battlerite actually is. First off, this is not a mobile or pay-to-win style of game. I'm not sure if it was a widespread notion, but people I've talked to originally thought the game fit into one of those two categories. The biggest reason is probably because they seem to do a decent bit of advertising by sponsoring content creators to make videos of it, and while that's not necessarily a bad way to get your name out there, a decent amount of mobile and pay-to-win games do the same type of thing, so it may be easy to see where people are getting confused. Anyway, according to their Steam page, Battlerite is a team arena brawler. Two teams fight it out in a best-of-3 format to see which team is better. You start off by picking one of the 25 champions, which are separated into 3 main classes: melee, ranged, and support. And once you select your character, you're really ready to queue up for a match. Upon entering the game, you will have the option to adjust your loadout, which allows slight buffs and modifications to your abilities that will really depend on your playstyle and the team you're playing against. And after that, there's really nothing left to do but fight. Champions each have a set of 5 abilities with 4 special abilities that can be used once you have enough special power. This power is gotten by doing damage, healing, destroying the middle orb, picking up the little orbs across the map, or really just participating in the game. Pretty much everything you do will get you a little bit of power. There's no farming, no itemization, just full-on 2v2 or 3v3 PvP. The first team to win 3 rounds wins the game. Games normally last between 10 to 15 minutes when everything is said and done. Winning games awards you with account experience for that specific character, and gold that can be used to permanently unlock characters. You can also receive loot boxes from leveling up your champions that contain cosmetic items used to customize the look of your character. There are also daily and weekly quests as well as achievements that you can complete by playing specific classes, playing a certain amount of games, etc. And that's really all there is to the base game. It gets a little bit more in depth as you get into it in terms of how different champions work, how their abilities synergize with each other, and how the loadouts work. But that is a little bit more in depth than I'd like to get into this video. But this game is very easy to get into, and you should be able to pick up at least the basic mechanics very quickly into your first match. So now let's get into what I actually think of Battlerite. I mentioned before that I wanted to use League of Legends as kind of a baseline comparison, and this is where that's going to come into play. Now, I'm not just going to take both games and compare them side by side on every single aspect because they do differ in a lot of ways. But since League of Legends is a very popular game and they do share some similarities, I'm going to use it as a point of reference for some of the things that I want to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is champion selection. And you may be thinking that this is a very minor part of both games, but I do think it plays a really big role on why I like Battlerite so much, coming from a League of Legends background. Champion selection in Battlerite is very simple. You pick your champion and then you queue up, compared to League, where you queue up and then pick your champion. Now, I think this is an important distinction because in Battlerite, everyone will always be playing the champion that they've picked. In Battlerite, you don't get to see the enemy team's composition, and unless you're in a private party, you don't even get to see your own team composition. And this threw me off a little bit at the start, but I really do think it's a good way to handle the champion selection in Battlerite. In the hundreds of hours I've sunk into League of Legends, I've seen champion select ruin more games than almost anything else. People will get such a negative attitude when they don't get to play the position or the champion that they want to play, and it ruins the game for everyone else from that point on. And Battlerite does a good job of just completely removing this point of contention. Now, I'm not saying League of Legends should or even could do this type of champion selection, but I do think Battlerite having their champion selection done in this way really leads to more enjoyable games by removing that point where people can just get a negative attitude from the start. The next thing I wanted to mention was the match length. Now, this is probably the most opinionated point of my three, but I do really enjoy how each match only lasts between 10 and 15 minutes. If you're getting completely outmaneuvered and outclassed by the other team in terms of team coordination and just overall skill, you don't have to endure that ass pounding for very long. No matter how bad you're losing, the match will be over in just a few minutes. No matter if someone decides to DC or your team is just completely outclassed, you don't have to sit there for 20 minutes while the game drags on until the eventual loss. The game ends very quickly, allowing you to just queue up soon after. The reduced match length means you can play more games in a given period of time, and it really reduces the amount of times you have to sit through an unenjoyable game. The last point I want to talk about is the complexity in Battlerite compared to other games in the same genre. While there is a little bit of variation with the loadout system, the loadouts really only modify pre-existing abilities and play such a minor role compared to the actual skill of the player. Where in some games, if you have the wrong stat distribution, you're just going to flat out do worse no matter how much more skill you have than your opponent. In Battlerite, your skill matters much more than the slight variations in the loadouts. The removal of the stat and item optimization mechanic really leads to more faster paced games that stay competitive throughout the entire match. Even if you're down 2 rounds to nothing, you can still come back because you're at no more of a disadvantage in that third round than you were in the first round. Now, I'm not saying that a system that relies on stat and item optimizations is necessarily bad. I mean, I enjoy it in the right type of situation, but I really enjoy how Battlerite was able to remove that aspect of the PvP game and lets you just get right down to business in a more balanced and competitive environment without having to waste time either farming for gear or farming for gold to buy more gear and really just rely on the late game. Battlerite does a really good job of getting right down to business and keeping everything relatively balanced. While you may not have to worry about stat and item optimizations, there still is a complexity to the gameplay. The intricacies of your abilities and the synergies between them is so much more in depth. Between counters, CCs, panics, mobility, and the vast amount of other abilities that can be used to outplay and outmaneuver your enemy, Battlerite puts more of a focus on the skill of a player and their knowledge of that champion rather than relying on itemization and gold. In the end, whether or not you enjoy the game comes down to what you really want to get out of a game. But I have to say, I do really enjoy playing Battlerite. It gives me a very similar feeling to the World of Warcraft PvP's system without the need to gear and level 20 tunes in order to get the full experience. Battlerite allows you to just pick up the game, pick a champion, and then just enjoy a 2v2 or 3v3 PvP brawl type game. It's not something I've seen done well in a lot of games, and it's really refreshing to see. And while this game may not be for everyone and may be a little bit more casual and less complex than some other similar games, I do think it's worth a shot if you do enjoy that style of game. It is free, so you really have nothing to lose. But that is all the time I have today to talk about Battlerite. I do hope you enjoyed my quick review of the game, and if you did end up liking it, be sure to give the video a like. If you are not already, be sure to subscribe. I will be making these review videos probably once a week. We'll see where my motivation lies with these videos, but that is all I have for this video. Again, I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you next time.